Okay, well, welcome everyone to another one of our Tuesday sessions here. And we're talking about the great transition, this energy we're in, these COVID times. Some people refer to it as the Ascension. That's one way of looking at it. My guides are more about the transition, the rebirth that we're going through, the rebirth that humanity is going through, as well as the rebirth of our nation here in the United States, where we're really starting to feel it. So, as of today, on June 30th, I have three messages that have come through Spirit. They were talking about COVID. And a lot of it was reiterating what I've already said, what my guides have already brought through, which is, as you may recall, in past sessions, my guides have talked about how we'd have this little interim period here in the summer where we'd be able to get out a little bit more, feel a little freer, a little more flexibility, as long as we were responsible with the time. In other words, social distancing, keeping our gatherings small, wearing masks, and taking the needed precautions and not undue or unnecessary risk. And that would give us about July through August till about the third week of September. Well, as we can see right now, people are getting out and they're not being very cautious in some places. So we're having these spikes, which if you remember back to a couple months ago when my guide said there would not be a shutdown during the summer, but we would see little hot spots that would crop up all over the place there where the virus would spike and then they would be shut down. So that's what you can expect through July and through August is this regional shutdowns, where the certain communities will just decide to do certain preventative measures and shutting down. We'll see it at the community level and then at the state level. They keep saying regional. So I feel that that's going to come into play. So it's just going to be wherever they're having an uprising of cases and things are starting to strain the healthcare system. And they're really concerned. My guides today, though, were really concerned about healthcare worker burnout. They were saying if we continue on this pace all through the summer and we're not cautious, we are going to see our healthcare workers literally like walking off the job by the time we get into the winter months. And they're showing me like strikes and unions and things that we haven't seen yet because people have been so compassionate with COVID. Everybody, all our healthcare workers have like stood up and they've been there even without the proper PPE. And we're going to see the other side of it as we get into September and October, and they're tired. They're feeling like we're taking advantage of them, the general we out there, by not being cautious and not taking precautions, and they're not really going to be apt to help us out or to want to serve us in that way anymore. So this is something to consider, that we're going to see our healthcare workers taking a very solid stand and saying, we're not going to continue to do this in the same way. So that's what we can look at towards that fall period as we move into September and October. And September, October, it looks like most of the country at that point, it may even be a little bit sooner than that third week of September I've been seeing, because of the way things are going, unless people start to really turn it around, where most of the country is going to be shut down again. I don't know if we're going to be given an order, or if there's going to be a federal order to shut down the whole country again, or if it's just going to be on a regional basis. But it does look like most of the country is going to be shut down. It's going to be really, really bad about kids going back to school. That's going to be a really, really dicey subject, because that's going to be a hot spot and a real danger zone, especially the high schools. For some reason, they kept tuning into the high schools, like elementary school, even junior high. It felt like they could keep kids fairly safe, but the high schools are going to be where you're going to see a real fallout from this, from in September as we get back to going back to school. They talked about a vaccine. The vaccine, they keep showing me that there's going to be several vaccines that kind of come up on the market. It feels like more towards December is when I see this happening. And once again, they're saying be cautious with these vaccines. There's unknown risks and side effects that are going to come along with them. So you might not want to be the first person to get in line for a vaccine. Um, they're trying to put things out there a little too fast, that the best measures you could take to stay safe are, social distancing, wearing a mask. The mask, remember, according to my guides, the mask also protects you. Okay. And now we're starting to hear some of the medical professionals come out and say, yeah, the mask does protect you to a certain extent. So, let's go ahead and do that. So moving on to, we're looking at the 4th of July coming up this weekend. So my guides kind of moved into like what's going on the 4th of July. So the 4th of July this year is going to be a very explosive 4th of July. There's a lot of chaotic energy abounding right now. And as they reminded me, we are in the energy of midsummer because the 4th of July is the eve of the old midsummer, the original midsummer. And so we've got those gateways to fairy and to the other worlds that are also very open right now and at play. So there's also apt to be violence. Things are going to turn ugly, whether it's, just like a simple get together, family get together. There's like a lot of they keep saying civil unrest. Civil unrest is going to be in the air, and some of this is going to be minimized, fortunately, by the local and regional shutdowns and making sure that people are not gathering in large groups. So that will help a lot. I would say this is a good time to stay close to home, maybe do something very simple with a small group of family and friends, of course, always social distancing and being safe, because any type of larger group gathering, and believe me, there's going to be them, because my guides have shown me across the nation what's going to be going on, and there will be an effect. There will be an effect from this, and we are going to see, as we're already seeing, younger people. We're seeing people in their 20s and 30s, and this is the age group that is going to be hit next, and hit very, very, very hard. And there's an assumption that they're young and they're, they'll be okay. You'll be able to, kick the virus or whatever. It's not that kind of virus. This is a virus that is like, it kind of shows up. And as my guide said, it's like you, not you, maybe you, yes, you. Yeah. It's like, there's no telling in any age group who's going to get really sick, who's going to end up in a hospital on a ventilator, and who's going to cross over to the other side. So this is a very unpredictable situation, and a lot of folks are not getting that right now. So please heed the message from the guides that you want to just be safe, rather be safe than sorry. And especially if you're in that age group 20 to 30, because that's where it's going to hit. And it's going to be for this summer. By probably getting into the latter part of August, we're going to have a huge spike in that age group, and it is going to be because of what's going on right now. And I know everybody's got cabin fever, everybody wants to get out there, and that's part of the problem too. So it's trying to restrain yourself when you don't want to be restrained. It's a little bit difficult. There is a little bit of freedom in this, though, in terms of, as long as, like the guides have said, as long as you're, being responsible, social distancing, taking care, you can go out and be safe. You can go eat outside at a restaurant. And they're reminding me once again of what they were saying about a month or so ago, when they said, this is not a virus that goes away in the summer. We're already seeing that. And actually, when you're indoors, take precautions indoors, especially if you're indoors, like a large supermarket, or a place like that, a Costco or a place like that, because the virus actually expands indoors and it hangs in the air longer. So your chances of contracting it if you're spending a lot of time in a supermarket or an indoor situation, is much higher than if you're outdoors. If you're outdoors, the virus, it's a very light virus, so it floats. It tends to blow away on the breeze or float up in the air. So, um, yeah, so keeping that in mind, if you're wanting to go out to eat or anything like that, you know, just be careful. Be careful and look for places where you can be outside. You know, summer's a great time for a picnic with a few friends and family. So basically, same rules apply through summertime as they did before, with just a little bit of freedom. They're also still very much on point with the fact that this virus has a life cycle, and that the life cycle times out roughly around February 2021. So around that time, we're going to start to see it diminish and start to go away. You know, not to say that all cases are going to be gone in February 2021, but that's where we're going to start to see it begin to subside, and less cases will be popping up. And then by next time this year, we'll all be having the discussion as to like what happened to COVID-19, where did it go? And by next time this year, though, as a result of COVID-19, um, our economic situation is going to be in a very, very different place. So that's what we'll be facing at that time. And my guides are reminding me that a large part of the reason is on us, because the more we go out and the more we don't social distance and the more people get sick, we're going to be in a situation where we're not going to have to be shut down. COVID will be shutting down the economy, because people will not be able to go to work, and a lot of people will be getting sick at the same time. And for the majority of people, this is not like just your average flu. You get pretty darn sick, and you're not able to go back to work. And because it is so highly contagious, once again, because it's a light virus, you know, it spreads very easily, highly contagious, it takes out a lot of people at once. So it'll be one of those days where you just think, hey, I'm going to stop by the store on the way home and pick up some things. And it's like, now the store's not open because they don't have enough employees to open. So we're in a situation where if we keep going on the trajectory that we're on, that's what we will see come September, October, especially October and into November. October is a month of a lot of chaos. And so we need to be prepared for that as well. So the last thing they wanted me to address in this update of the Great Transition are the dimensional shifts. So we're going to get a little existential out here. And I know I've talked about this before, but I asked my guides for a way that I could just be very concise with delivering the message, and in a way that hopefully most people will understand what's going on right now. Because they've spoken before about parallel realities and about these lines of time being open right now, and how we are reweaving time right now. And this is part of the transition and this rebirth of humanity that's going on right now. And of course, the rebirth of our nation here in the United States. So we're in some really huge times for historical change. And so along those lines, with the dimensional shifts, if you recall the prior reading that I did on this, when they came through and said, well, these dimensions are superimposed upon each other, and things are beginning to slip through from different dimensions, different parallel realities, and they're beginning to show up in our current, what we would consider reality. And they were saying, be cautious about everything you do, especially driving, because with driving, there's a tendency, if you, when, as the dimensions are like very fluid as they are now, to all of a sudden be in one realm and then shift into another one just slightly and subtly and shift back. But that's enough time for you to all of a sudden hit a car that's been in front of you the whole time, but because it wasn't in front of you in the other dimension, you missed that. So along those same lines, they were explaining to me how this is working and how we're beginning to anchor this into like one timeline, which eventually we are going to get to that place where we do anchor it in. And that date, that they didn't give me an exact date, like by this date you're going to have it anchored in, and you're going to all be, everybody that is vibrating on that same frequency is going to be in that same timeline. I do feel like at some point in 2021 when it really solidly anchors in. So the way they explained it to me in my like dumbing down easy terms for Rowan Fox was that, imagine you're walking down your street in your neighborhood, and now all of a sudden imagine your street comes together with the street that is just one block over, just merges. And then imagine the street on the other side, the block on the other side merges. So you're getting a very, very different view of things. You're pulling in things from the block to the left of you and the block to the right of you. So whatever is in, of course, that infamous, word or two words, vibrational alignment with where you are and where the general consensus of everyone that's living on your block is, and also the other two, that's what's going to be chosen. So you're going to get a little bit of what you have now, a little bit from the left, a little bit from the right, and you're going to be looking at a very different picture. And of course, this is a super simplified way of putting this. I'm sure some quantum physicists could really go off on this, but I'm a psychic, not a quantum physicist. So we'll just stick with the psychic information for now. So in essence, what we're doing is we're in times where, because the veils are so thin right now, things and people and experiences are entering from other dimensions, entering to our dimension, and likewise, we are doing the same in their dimensions. So it's really quite possible for you to have like a wonderful conversation with some guy you meet on the corner and just think, wow, that was like really so insightful, but there was something a little bit off about him, like he didn't seem exactly real, or it had an otherworldly essence to it. And it is very likely that you are speaking to someone who is in a parallel dimension that is just kind of slipped into your dimension, or vice versa. So I know this is really heady stuff and it's a little hard to grasp at times. But it's also really fun stuff to think that, at this point in time, we're actually reweaving our future. And, as much as we're having these experiences with people from other dimensions and likewise, we're also able to draw in more of the experiences that we want, more of what we desire, more of the future that we desire. And we were able to like begin creating those pictures in our mind of where we would like to go. And as my guides have been saying, keep it future forward, keep it focused on where you're going, not where you're at, where you want to go, where you want to be. And then we're just kind of on our way to creating this beautiful new world. So those are the messages for today on June 30th, 2020 for the Great Transition. And if you're available, join us for our live weekly updates. Visit my webpage at rowanfox.com for the Zoom link.